everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with a new video. Today I'm going to talk about my most anticipated releases from the month of October until December. And yes, I know this video is very late because it is October 28th as of filming this, but you know, better late than never. So I think I want to say 11 books, I'm not sure, but yeah, let's get to them. So the first book is a book in a new series or trilogy, or I don't know, there's going to be several books. It's called Night of the Witch by Sarah Rosh and Beth Revis. There's supposed to be a witch, there's supposed to be a hunter, and they're out for vengeance and they're on a mission. Basically, our main character Fritzi is a witch. She wants revenge on the people that brutally attacked her coven. Now we have Otto, who is a hexenjäger and a captain, and he's one of the people that basically attacked Fritzi's coven. So I guess we get to see the two different sides of it, which would be really interesting. A YA fantasy, and it's supposed to be published on October 3rd, so it's already out. When Ghosts Call Us Home, written by Taya de Becerra. This is supposed to be a young adult horror, which is definitely a genre I don't read, well, ever. But the premise sounded interesting, so I'm going to give it a shot. So basically we have Sophia, and when she was 12 years old, she started in her older sister's Lydia's horror movie. It's basically raw footage of her reacting to all of the different spooky events in their old home. The sisters used to be very close, but after the conclusion of this movie, they're kind of grown apart, and she still lives with the nightmares from recording this horror movie. People have very disturbing thoughts about her sister. They think that Lydia made a pact with the devil in exchange for her soul to be able to be famous, and you know, she is gonna figure out if that's true or not. So this will also be out on October 3rd. Now we have Wrath Becomes Her by Aidan Polidoros, and this is one beautiful cover, I ain't gonna lie. This is supposed to be a young adult fantasy that's supposed to be published on October 10th. Sort of a historical fantasy because it takes place in Lithuania in the 1940s, and we have a father that is basically drowning in all-consuming grief after his daughter was killed by the Nazi, and he can't bring back his daughter because I mean she's dead, but he can instead create a golem in her image to be able to get revenge on the Nazis that actually killed her. This golem called Vera, and she's gonna revenge the daughter that died. The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not gonna say a lot about this one because I know some people don't want to be spoiled, but this is the fourth and final secret novel from Brandon Sanderson. I have read 2 out of the 4 books so far. I do have the 3rd one, and I've had it for a few months. I haven't had the time to read it. It's a adult fantasy with some sci-fi elements. I'm not gonna tell you what it's about. The thing that I'm going to say is that this takes place in the Cosmere. Perpetual planetary wanderer must decide whether to keep running or stay and make a difference on a struggling planet. This is out on October 19th for the ones that was part of the Kickstarter. Everyone else can get it, I want to say January, but I'm not sure, but yeah, somewhere around there. And then we have The Rosewood Hunt by Mackenzie Reed. This is a young adult mystery thriller, which is definitely not one of my usual genres, but I'm trying to branch out here, people. But this one is supposed to be published on October 31st. So basically our main character Lily, she dreams of taking over her family company one day, and her grandmother holds the Rosewood Inc. current share. She has always encouraged Lily to teach her everything she can to, you know, run the business when she passes. But then all of a sudden her gram actually dies very suddenly, and this world is upended. And it also turns out that Graham's fortune of $1 billion is missing, and Lily can't really fathom what her future is gonna hold for her now. But it turns out that even though Graham is dead, she has some tricks up her sleeve, because she sent a letter with very cryptic clues for Lily and 3 other teens to basically do a treasure hunt that could change their life forever. And then we have The Way I Am Now by Amber Smith, which is book 2 in The Way I Used to Be. And I read the first book a few years ago. Really enjoyed it. It's very dark and definitely evolves around some very difficult topics, but it was really good book, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. So basically we follow the same characters as in the first book. In the first book, a main character basically was raped. I think it was by her brother's friend or something like that, and nobody believed her until someone else stepped up as well and told the same story. And yeah, we get to follow what everything that happens after that. And this is supposed to be published on November 7th. And then another book that's going to be published on November 7th is The Vengeance of the Pirate Queen, which is the third book in Daughter of the Pirate King. And this is sort of described as Pirates of the Caribbean meets The Mummy and Vengeance of the Pirate Queen. This is a young adult fantasy series. I do really love the first two books. And this one we're going to follow a different character. We still have Alosa, which is the main character of the other books. But this one we follow Alosa's assassin, who's an 18-year-old called Serinda. Instead of her telling Serinda to kill someone, which is her usual job, she tells her to handpick a crew on a rescue mission. And basically she come across this guy that's really annoying, but he's really good at his job, and shit happens. And then we have Wish of the Wicked by Danielle Page. This is the first book in a series called Wish of the Wicked. There's supposed to be more sort of fairy tale inspired novels in the series. This is a young adult fantasy. Usually I'm not that much for retellings because I usually don't end up liking them, but this sounds very promising, so I'm going to give it a shot. Okay, so for centuries, the enchanted members of the Entente have worked in tandem with the three fates: the present, the past, and the future. To maintain destiny across the 13 queendoms. But when Queen Margaret learns of her untimely demise from Hecate, fate of the future, Margaret burns Hecate at the stake and decrees death to all Entente in order to live forever. But some survive, which includes our main character, Pharaoh, who is 16 years old, and she hatches a dangerous plan to seek revenge. And all along she might be falling for the person that could ruin everything. This is supposed to be published on November 14th. And then of course we can't do one of these videos without having a Brandon Sanderson somewhere around there, even though technically this is the second one in this video. But we have Defiant, which is the fourth and I believe final book in the Skyward quartet. And this is a YA sci-fi series. And basically in the first one we meet our main character, Spensa, and she trains really hard to get into this sort of space academy to be able to be a pilot, so that she can help defend the planet that she lives on from the alien species. She has some trouble getting into the academy, however, because her father was previously branded a coward, which is like the worst thing ever, and that was just right before his death. So she tries to prove them all wrong, that she is not in fact her father. I really enjoyed this series so much. The third one was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't bad or anything, I still really enjoyed it, but was just heading in a different direction than I would have liked. But yeah, this one is supposed to be published on November 21st. And then we have Godly Heathens, which is book one in the Ouroboros series by H.E. Edgman. It's supposed to be a YA fantasy with queer representation. So we have Jem Eccles, who's a non-binary Simone teen living in Gracie, Georgia. We also have Enzo, who's another trans kid who lives 1,000 miles away from Jem. But what Enzo doesn't know is that Jem's dreams are haunting visions of magic and violence that have always felt too real. And then we also meet this character called Willa May Hardy, who's a very strange new girl in a town, and she acts like she and Jem are old companions, although they've never met before. And then Jem is attacked by a stranger claiming to be the goddess of death, and Willa May saves her life and finally offers some answers. And it turns out that Willa and Jem are reincarnated gods, and they have known and loved each other across lifetimes, but Jem, or at least who Jem used to be, hasn't always been the most benevolent deity. And they met a lot of enemies in the Infantion, enemies who, like the goddess of death, will keep coming. So this sounds like a very different type of book that I usually read. I mean, a little fantasy, but reincarnated gods. Yes, please. And this is supposed to be published on November 28th. We'll come to the final book, which is To Kill a Shadow, which is the first book in a series called Mistlands, written by Catherine Quinn. And this is a YA fantasy with like a fantasy romance trope. It's supposed to be LGBTQ plus representation. So we have Jude Maddox, a main character, knows nothing of love or even light. He knows only his grim duty as the hand of death, to lead the Knights of the Eternal Star into a land filled with nightmares and certain demise. It's only when he sees her, a young woman with wild amber eyes, who is as fierce, defiant, and swift as the shadow beasts themselves, that he feels the warmth of life in his blood. Other knights may fear their lethal commander with his hard, merciless demeanor. Outcast Kiara Frey sees only a leader, a man who knows how to survive. Someone like her, bewondering him, is as treacherous as the shadows themselves, and just as seductive. With a kingdom on the verge of collapse, the knights must now endure into the darkest heart of the land and uncover the secret of the misted shadows, where evil will prey upon their minds and feast on their flesh. It will betray their senses. It will surpass their nightmares. Most of them will die. But they have no other choice, because the only way to fight the darkness is to become it. And this is supposed to be published on November 29th. This is the last book of this list, because as usual, December has let me down. I had never seemed to be able to find books released in December that I'm really into. So this is where we finish off our list. There are a lot of books on this list that I'm really interested in. Hopefully I will enjoy them all. There's some genres that I'm not usually reading, so it might be interesting to find out what I think about them. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope we see each other in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.